Hello and welcome to the North Atlantic Corona Challenge. My name is Jákup, I'm from the Faroe Islands.
And my name is Øystein, I'm from Norway. And together we will host this kickoff webinar, as well as the final webinar on Sunday, together with the award ceremony.
The corona pandemic changed our lives dramatically in the past 2 months. Businesses, communities, and our way of living is not like it used to be. So this weekend we challenge the participating teams to develop their best idea to save lives, save communities, and save businesses in our North Atlantic region. This is entrepreneurship on steroids because you, the participating teams, get less than 48 hours to identify an issue and bring your best idea to the table. And on Sunday, the winner walks away with 30,000 Danish kroner, second place 20,000, third place 10,000 kroner. But it's not just about the money, is it, Øystein?
No, indeed not. That's just an extra incentive, of course, but we also think that this weekend will give you more new friends across the sea, because you will have international teams, many of you. You will get the opportunity to develop your ideas further, and you will get help from really good mentors from all 5 participating countries, being Norway, Iceland, Greenland, Faroe Islands, and Scotland.
Welcome to the North Atlantic Corona Challenge. Øystein, how many people are participating in this?
So we have about 60 participants in total, 17 teams now, and a jury consisting of 5 people, 1 from each country, as well as 10 mentors from all the countries as well.
All right. But before we dive into some more practical details, which we will in a bit, we have a very special guest with us. So stay with us till the end. I'm going to put these in so we can hear him as well. All the way from Silicon Valley, we have Heini Zachariassen, an entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Vivino, the world's largest online wine marketplace and the most downloaded wine app. Heini is from the Faroe Islands. He knows all about entrepreneurship and the challenges in the North Atlantic. So we are very excited to listen to his inspirational talk this evening. So welcome, Heini.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
Let me start with a very Faroese question. How is the weather in California today?
So the weather here is actually a tiny bit Faroese at this point. You know, we've had some really warm sunny days, but right now it's a little bit sort of foggy and it almost feels like back home. It's a little bit warmer though. It's like 20 degrees still.
20 degrees is a really warm summer day in the Faroe Islands.
Yeah, it is. It's fine. When you lived for a few years, you feel a little bit cold at 20 though.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So, Heini, we are very much looking forward to hearing your inspirational words for our participants. The virtual floor is now yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here. I look forward to doing like a short talk here first, but I really want to talk to you guys about your ideas and what you guys are building and so on. But let me give you a little bit of background about myself, about Vivino, and so on. So I grew up in the Faroe Islands. I am 47 years old now. I live here with my family, with my wife and 3 kids. And, you sort of start out saying that I knew something about the Faroe Islands, but I will tell you that the Faroe Islands were a little bit different when I grew up there. There were no startups, there were no corona challenges, and actually there wasn't any internet either. So it is a few years ago since I grew up there. Things have changed quite a bit. Let me tell a little bit about Vivino first. So we started about 10 years ago building this thing called Vivino, and for the people that don't know it, what you can do is you can take your phone, take a picture of a wine bottle, and we'll tell you everything about any bottle of wine in the world. And that sort of is the first subject I really want to touch with you guys, because the thing that you're going to work on today and the next couple of days is what we call, getting ideas and so on. And the core of any startup, any product, is a product market fit. And this is where most ideas, most startups fail. So getting that right is the foundation of any startup out there. And I'll be honest with you, we have and had an amazing product market fit. It's not like we were geniuses or anything like that, but the idea was pretty simple. You know, we saw a lot of people walk into a supermarket, millions of people every day, looking at a wall of wine and thinking, what the heck do I buy? Like, I have these fancy labels, there's alligators on, there's pictures on. The only decision I can make is based on these stupid labels and maybe a price. And if you wanted to buy a book, you know, you get a rating. If you wanted to see a movie, you get a rating. But for wine, there was nothing out there. So the core thing there, they say, okay, there's definitely a need. People want this. So when I walked into a supermarket in Copenhagen, I knew there was something there. So what usually happens in these things is like, a lot of people think, it would be amazing if we could solve that problem. So what is the solution to this problem? And that's where technology comes in. And one of the important things in what makes startups be really, really successful is actually timing. So what happened for us was that the timing was insanely good. So when we went out and started this company, you know, the smartphone was launched in 2007. And by 2010, you know, a lot of people had it. And they had good cameras on, and they were mostly online. So for the first time ever, and we don't think about this today, and the kids that are under 30, they have no idea what I'm talking about. But before that, you know, walking into a supermarket with a computer and a camera that was online, that was like completely unrealistic. But suddenly you were in this supermarket, you could take a picture, and you had access to the internet. And that window was right there. Like, if we hadn't started around that time, 2-3 years later, somebody else would have done it. A few years earlier, too early. So the timing is incredibly important. So hitting the technology right and time is super duper important. So anyway, the core here is what you're building here is product market fit. Building a product that the market wants is the key for everything here. And try really and be critical what you're doing. We can easily cheat ourselves and convince ourselves that this bullshit products, it's something that people want. You got to be really critical, because this is where a lot of people fail. So be critical there, because it's incredibly important. Anyway, we started building this product, and from 2010 till 2012, really not a lot happened. Like, we were building like crazy. This was hard to do because we didn't have any data about wine. So we were looking for all this data. And nobody knew if these wines were good or bad, because the database is so big. We have 10 million wines from 200,000 producers today. So it's like an infinite database of products, so crazy. And that takes me, you know, to another story, which is what I think is important in a founder. Like, what is important for somebody who's going to build a great startup, a great product? And I remember one story. And this is back when we had just started. And this is Janus Friis. Janus Friis, who is one of the two founders of Skype that we're using right now. And he was our first angel, our only angel investor back then. And he told me that he'd met with some partners that were considering to invest in Vivino. And they'd all said, you know, this product really isn't much. And back then. And they were right, it really wasn't much. It was pretty bad back then. But what Janus said to the guys was, you know what? And I knew Janus pretty well. He said, you know what? I know Theis and Heini pretty well. They're going to keep building to this until they get it right. And at an early stage with a startup, like, the most important thing is actually stamina. Like, you're going to hit the wall 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 100 times. That's what happens all the time. You hit the wall. So stamina and the ability to keep going is incredibly important. And I'm saying this because for us, between 2010 and sort of mid-2012, basically nothing happened. Like, we had very few downloads, very few people used it, and then suddenly it started going up. And that happens all the time. And very often you stop just before it takes off. So having stamina is just incredibly important when you do a start. Obviously, if you live in the Faroe Islands where the rain and wind goes sideways, you have a little bit of stamina. Just to get home can take a lot of stamina. You get really soft skin living here in California, I'll tell you that. So anyway, so from 2010, 12, but in 13, things started moving really, really fast. You know, in 13, we raised $10 million, and I decided to move out here. So Thijs was back in Copenhagen, and I'm here. We moved out here because the US is our biggest market. Right now, the US is around 20% of all our users, but 50% of our revenue. So very, very important market for us. Just to give you a bit of an overview now, we're 43 million users. Every single day, 20,000 people, a third of the Faroe Islands install Vivino every single day. So it just keeps going. And all this is done without marketing. It's all word of mouth. People using the app and spreading the word of the app because they love the app. So we're incredibly privileged in that. We've raised a fuckload of money, $70 million. We sell wine in 17 markets. And recently, very recently, we're also profitable, which is a big sort of turning point for us too, that we're now starting to make money. So that's good. I want to talk a little bit about Corona too, because that is the subject here. It's a strange thing, and I think if we sort of asked ourselves 6 months ago, would we be here now, we would say, no, that can never happen. It can't happen that the entire world shuts down suddenly and people stay at home. And it's been surreal and very surprising. Obviously, people that are much smarter than me have predicted this, but I didn't see it coming. So it's been very, very strange. For business, it's been also very unfair. Like incredibly smart and talented people have been hit and go bankrupt because of this, right? So it's incredibly sad for a lot of people that have done nothing to deserve this. It was just bad luck for them. So that really, really sucks. Anyway, when this started, we hit the brakes right away. Okay, we do not know what's happening. Take it cool. Stop a lot of, stop hiring people, stop the marketing, everything, just put it on a cool, just see what, we didn't fire anybody, just take it cool. But really quickly we saw that, okay, this is definitely not impacting us in a negative way. This is impacting us in a positive way. So it turned out only a few days in that we were one of the lucky ones that were impacted positively. So since this started, our revenue has, I wouldn't say exploded, but like more than doubled. So we are growing incredibly fast right now as people are sitting at home and ordering more online. And we've had the infrastructure to supply wine to people that really need wine when they're sitting at home in the dark evenings. So they drink a lot of wine and they order it from us. So could be worse. So we're definitely fortunate when it comes to the Corona, but it's changing the world in that sense. So I think a lot of, I see this as an opportunity, and everybody should see it as an opportunity. I think this Corona challenge is also something like that these are the times when the big shifts happen. Like when everything is the same, but it's harder to disrupt. But when things are really shaken up, that's when young companies come up and explode and become really, really big. So I think that's important. I want to tell you a little bit of story for the last couple of days too. I know we have a young audience here. So we had about a week ago, one of our big producers came to us, wine producers, and said they were launching a new wine from a big celebrity. And I told the board, we had a board meeting this week, and they looked at me and said, who the hell is that? They didn't, I think maybe one of the new ones. But this audience, I know, you all know Post Malone. So yesterday we launched Post Malone as an exclusive. And there was so much demand that our web server was like, actually stopped for a few minutes as we sold 25,000 bottles of his rosé in a few hours. So really cool to see that, and we're waiting for a big Instagram post from Post Malone any minute, and we'll see if our servers can hold up for all the rosé wines we're going to sell. Anyway, finally, I just want to say before we get into some questions, my passion is to build stuff, and what you're about to do this weekend is building stuff. I mean, for me, that is the most satisfying thing. It's the most fun thing you can ever do. So build something fun, build something amazing. I look forward to seeing what you've got and talking about more about questions, whatever you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heini, for the inspiring words. Definitely helpful for the participants, and very interesting also to hear your story. We will now give the opportunity to ask some questions, and this is particularly for the participants this weekend. We're going to use Slack, which is the communications platform that we're using. So if you're not part of the challenge, but you're watching, unfortunately you won't be able to ask questions, but definitely to listen in to the questions that come in and to hear what Heini has to say. So if you have any questions and you're a participant this weekend, go to Slack and to the hashtag keynote challenge, and you can, hashtag keynote channel in Slack. And you can write the questions down there and just keep them coming. Throw your question in. There's no stupid question. We'll try and take as many questions as we can. We'll see what time allows for.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we go to the floor, I have a couple of questions myself, actually, that I want to raise. So, Heini, in your opinion, if we step forward a few months after the pandemic is over, what are some of the biggest challenges that the businesses and communities will face do you think, in our region?
Yeah, sure. First of all, this is, I mentioned a little bit earlier, this is not going to hit everyone equally. For a lot of people, this is an opportunity. For others, it's a complete, disaster, right? But specifically, I think for people that don't live in big urban centers and so on, I think it's a massive, massive opportunity. I think the world is not going to be the same. I don't think, I'm not saying that we're not going to see the same urbanization as we've seen before, but it's going to take some time till we go back to normal work, which means this is sort of an equalizer that doesn't really matter if you're in London or Tórshavn, because you're in the same time zone, you're both on Zoom, who cares? So if travel is hard and we're all remote anyway, then this can be an equalizer for a lot of people living out there. So I think that's very, very important. And I think, our office here in San Francisco, we're on the 20th floor, and it's a big building, it's a new, nice building and all. But I look forward to seeing how social distancing is going to work there, because the elevators can barely handle us on a normal day now. If we're going to fill those buildings, there's no way to do that. So things are not going to be normal until we have a vaccine here, if we want to keep some distance here. So I think that creates opportunities for people that live, further away, work remote and so on. And also, what also is going to happen is that everybody's trying to figure out with technology how to solve all these problems. How do we make Zoom better? How do we make Skype better? And those tools are in their infancy right now. And they're going to go next level over the next 2-3 years for sure, which is going to change remote work completely.
Thank you. And a second question before we open the floor now. So what are the biggest differences and perhaps also similarities between running a business in a rural area, like the Faroe Islands, for instance, and in a big world metropole like Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I think so. Well, there are many reasons why people go to a place like this. There are a lot of good things. There are a lot of bad things too. The reason why you go to an area like this is because there's a lot of people with amazing talent in the same place. So Silicon Valley is the tech capital of the world, which means that in this area there's roughly 8 million people, and a lot of those people have come from everywhere in the world because they're into tech, which means it is a gathering of the Premier League of tech. Like the best people you can imagine in technology are gathered here, right? So the talent pool that goes and that attracts investors, all those things just create a dynamic that is completely unique. So the problems with that is that it's incredibly expensive. There's insane competition for the good people and so on. So all those things are why people go to these big areas. And then you have the other areas where where people can have a better life. And in certain areas, if you can work remote, you can have a completely different cost base and maybe offer your job at a lower cost, even though you do the exact same job as somebody in Silicon Valley. So I think those things are going to change everything and the dynamic of either being rural or urban.
Excellent. Heini, thank you. We have a lot of questions coming in, so this is really interesting. I'm going to take one. This is a very particular question from Nikolai, who asks, how do you go about finding skilled app programmers?
Cool. Yeah, that's a good question. I think that depends very much on where you are. If you're in Silicon Valley, this is the craziest market ever. But everyone you hire here is basically a recruiter. You use a headhunter to find anyone here. So anyway, if we're gonna go back to something more startup-y, and maybe you're not looking for someone who has to be in the Faroe Islands or Norway or something, I would go out and use platforms like Upwork and so on, and just go out there and find out, hey, who can I find that I do a small project for, and pay them to do it. And for me, we use it once in a while just to see what's out there, and there's a lot of good people out there that aren't that costly, so that should be possible. If you have a university next to you, obviously you can maybe try and find a student and so on, but I've used these online platforms a lot, and you can find amazing talent there at incredible cost.
Okay. Here's another interesting question from Finley. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced building the platform in augmented reality?
Yeah, so our platform we've sometimes been categorized as augmented reality. I mean, it's a little bit of a stretch. If it's AR, it's not that hardcore. We do a little bit of AR. We scan these wine menus and then we put ratings on them and so on. So it's somewhat AR. So I think AR has amazing potential, but it's still very, very immature. I think you should watch companies like Snapchat. They're very, very interested in AR. I think they're going to go far. I think AR is going to, we saw these Google glasses a few years ago, which completely failed. But the basic idea of us having some kind of glasses on and so on, I think that's going to happen at some point within too long. We're all going to have some kind of screen right in front of us if it isn't behind our eye. But I think AR is really big, but we haven't done that much of it, honestly.
Okay, here's one from Rachel. Rachel, I think it is. Given that you made the decision to move to the US, your biggest market, years ago, do you think business locations will be as important in a post-coronavirus world? The location of where your business is?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and it comes a little bit back to what we talked about earlier. I think honestly, I'm sort of a semi-no. It's gonna be less important. It doesn't mean it's not going to be important, but it's going to be less important because we're going to be better at it and we're going to have better tools. All that said, there's no replacement for if you want to be on a market and do marketing and communicate with a market, you have to be there in some way. So if you think you can sit in Copenhagen and have marketing people, communication people there, speaking their Danglish or whatever it is, to the U.S. market, that is not going to work. If you want to build the U.S. market and win the U.S. market, you have to be here or have people that understand the market incredibly well, native speakers and just people that grew up here. I think so we should never underestimate that, even though the distances become smaller. The other thing that is not going to change with this is time difference, and that's really when it comes to us working in California, working closely with Copenhagen, that's actually our biggest challenge. 9 hours time difference when you're working as a team is incredibly difficult. It's just, the overlap is just very, very small. So that's more of a challenge, and that could be one of the reasons why you realize, well, I have to be here. But also, if it's US is the market, New York can be a lot easier than over here on the West Coast.
If I could just follow up on that question, if we think about the North Atlantic region, what kind of challenges do you many of the teams that are here this weekend, they are international, they're from the different countries and put together. What kind of challenges do you imagine a team, let's say one of them, they wanted to pursue the idea further, and they're all located in different countries, in Greenland, Norway, Iceland, Faroe Islands, Scotland. What kind of challenges do you think they would face working from those different countries? With not as big of a time difference, but still, a few hours difference.
Yeah, I honestly, I think, first of all, I'll just say it's very doable. And it's getting easier every single day. Even 10 years ago, things work so much better today than they did 10 years ago. So first of all, It is doable, and it's becoming easier every single day. That said, you really need to have discipline in your communication. When you're not sitting next to somebody and can give sort of small vibes and comments to each other, you have to be much more literal and clear in your communication. So this is something we've really learned, is that we have to be careful with all the communication we have, so we understand each other much better when we work at a distance. And like using video, be disciplined around using video as much as you can. That also matters. So it is harder, but a lot of people do it these days. It's becoming more and more common, and the tools are better, so it can definitely be done.
Great. We have a question from Egil Anton. He asks, it's actually a double question. He asks, back then, how was the entrepreneur environment in the Faroe Islands? And how did you get the platform to skyrocket where you are now?
Yeah, so the first one's going to be a really short answer. Huh? So there was, I don't think there was ever anything. And you have to remember that this, so first of all, Faroe Islands, obviously there was no community of any kind back then, so nothing. But even in Copenhagen, this is all pretty new. Like when we built Bullguard in the early 2000s, it was limited how much funding was there, how many people were in the community, and so on. So for Copenhagen, which is the area that I know best in the Nordics, this all happened in the last 10, 12, 13 years because a lot of people pushed hard for it. So anyway, I think the next question was, how did we sort of get the resource? How did it all happen? I think it's a combination of things, right? We're a product, sort of product-based company, which means that what we always wanted to build is the best possible product, and the product was always going to be the driver of our success. If you start building something that people use, investors and others will see it, and then you put fuel on that fire, and you can grow even faster, right? I think that's the key here. And people often ask me, say, well, fundraising is really hard. It's so hard to raise money. I can't find any money. You know what? That's actually bullshit. What's hard is to build a product that millions of people use. If you do that, you'll get the money. It's much harder to build a product that millions of people use.
Roughly, how do you, Ahmed asks a question here, roughly, how do you determine how much initial investment is required for a startup? How do you know what kind of money you need to work to kind of get started?
Yeah, and this is another thing with funding is like when I say these numbers, when I say like $70 million, we're like, what the hell, and how did you spend all that money? But that isn't really how it works. It comes in small stages and then it builds up. That's really what happens. So I always say, build the smallest possible thing you can so you can get to the next stage. So if you need $10,000 to build something, build that. What you want to do for that money, whatever money you have, is get to the next stage. So people say, okay, maybe I can raise more money now. So that's how most startups go. And then you end up raising 25 million at some point if you do really well. So it's always about building something so you get to the next level. And I will say again, apart from this, something I say a lot, this Corona challenge, people don't invest in ideas. Like, you get money here for your idea, but it's only competition. Like, no investor says, yeah, I love your idea, let's put some money in there. You have to build something. Once you have the 30,000 kroner when you won this thing, then you got to build something, and then maybe you'll have someone who can invest in you. Don't think anyone will invest in a PowerPoint. It just doesn't work like that.
We have a question from Audur, who asks, what do you think about the current market for mobile apps? Is it too oversaturated? Will it blow over? Is there anything to go for in the mobile app market? Since we have
so it's definitely, there's a point there, right? So when we started and sort of a few years after, obviously apps were more of a curiosity, right? So people said, hey, I have this new app, it's amazing, you should install it, and so on. So that's great. And that has definitely changed. But I'm not sure you should see it as apps or not apps. The question is, are people going to have something on their phone that they're going to either install or use mobile web. I think that's the most important thing. There's no doubt about it that today, for people to install an app, the bar is high. You have to build something good that I will use pretty frequently. Otherwise, I'm not going to install it. Like in the early days, people would install all kinds of stupid gimmicks because there wasn't so much out there. So yes, it's a little bit harder today than it was earlier. That's for sure. But people are going to need something on their phones that's going to run. If it's a mobile web or app, who knows?
Great. So we have a quite direct question from Eve May. Does your app directly produce income?
Yes, very much so. So like I said in my opening, we're now profitable because we sell substantial amounts of wine through the platform. So when we started out, it took actually a long time before we really started doing any of that. But now we sell wine through the app and get a commission on everything sold there. And since this started, the numbers are really, really big.
The last question, Heini, and I think this is a great question from Tove, who asks that you mentioned that stamina was important for your success. How do you manage to continue to build a business whilst experiencing many setbacks, compared to knowing when an idea just isn't going to work?
This is the this can be the curse, right? Because you really want to keep going. But at the same time, sometimes it just isn't there, right? So honestly, it's a really, really difficult call to make. But I would say usually when in doubt, keep going. Because, we will quit before we take it all the way. But one measurement you can use is to make sure you talk to people who are sort of unbiased and not your friends. Like your family and friends say what you're building is amazing because they love you, but they're not telling you the truth. And they might even think they're telling you the truth, but talk to people that have nothing at stake with you. Talk to people that are completely unbiased and ask them, hey, do you want to use this product? Do you want to pay for it? And if those people say no, that just is more credible. And these yay-sayers can be a problem, and they only do it because they love you, but be careful with listening to those people.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Heini, for joining us tonight, and thank you for answering all the questions. We had a lot of questions coming in, but we couldn't answer all of them, but I think we got some great ideas and great answers from you. So thank you very much, Heini.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. And before we get to the end, we're going to go through some practical aspects for this weekend. And I think I'll ask you, Øystein. Øystein is the expert on this. Øystein, tell us a little bit about what we are looking for from the ideas that they're going to be working on.
Yeah, so this is basically a challenge for the North Atlantic region, meaning a sparsely populated and a rural region. So we're looking for ideas that can help save lives, businesses or communities in the current pandemics in our region. The jury that shall judge on all your final products or your submitted proposals on Sunday will go after three key points. So the first point is that the idea should be original, meaning that it should not be something that's already out there on the market, right? The second idea is that it should be a realistic plan. It should be possible to develop this within months, within the pandemic and the crisis we're actually in. And the last part is that it has to be impactful to our region as well. So these are the three main things that all the teams need to keep in mind when you are developing your idea throughout this weekend. And just to sum up on the commercial side, so we would like the project, the ideas, to have a commercial potential as well, and to be demand-led. All right.
What about the schedule for the weekend? How is the schedule going to look?
Yeah. So we have
program.
Yeah. So we have a full program, but most of the work will be done by the teams in in the private chat rooms, video chat and so on Slack. But we have a few checkpoints, so important times to remember throughout the weekend. The most important ones are the mentor checkpoints and the submission deadlines. So I'll go through the schedule now briefly, and remember I will say these in Icelandic time zone. So on the website we have all the time zones that are relevant, and you can look at your own time zone that applies to you. But so tomorrow you will have 2 meetings with your mentor that you will be assigned and have already been assigned, most of you. 12 o'clock and 5 p.m. Will be the meetings with the mentors. And this is your chance to get feedback from the mentors, get really good input, and also to ask them direct questions. So for the first mentoring checkpoints, you should be able to explain what's the problem. There has to be a problem so that there could be a solution. So you have to be able to explain then what do you think is the problem here. And then on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, there will be the last mentoring checkpoint. And this is just 3 hours before the final deadline to submit the proposals. But already tomorrow evening, you will have a preliminary deadline to submit a video. But this is just mainly a technical check. So it's to see that you are able to upload a video in the portal, in the proposal pot. And then we know that for Sunday that you are good. So 2 o'clock on Sunday is the final deadline for the videos, the products. Then you need to have uploaded it into the proposal pot. So the proposal pot will be. This is a system developed by our IT delivery Tøkne from the Faroe Islands, and you will get more information tomorrow regarding how to upload and the link to this portal. But you should check that out when you get more information about that tomorrow. And then on Sunday, after the final deadline, there will be this final webinar with the 2 of us, where we will award the winners and talk a bit more about how this weekend has been.
Exactly. 5 o'clock Icelandic time on Sunday. And I want to ask about one more thing as well, Slack. Some of the people here might be familiar with it, some might not. I hope you're all on Slack by now. Slack is the place where you're going to be working together. Slack is a communications tool where you can chat, you can send private messages between each other. You can also have your own team channel where it's only you, the people on the team that can talk together. You can also call and video chat on Slack. And then there's also a few channels for everyone where you can ask questions. But then there's also the opportunity to ask specific questions.
Yeah, so if you have technical issues with the portal, you can call Tøkne, and the phone number is now on the screen. If you have other questions related to the challenges themselves, then you can always contact us as organizers, me and my colleague Ranva from Nora and Katarina from Highlands and Islands Enterprise. We can help you out there, but then you can contact us directly on Slack. That will be the best way. However, I did forget to say a bit more about what is it that the participants and teams should provide on Sunday. So the proposal pot.
The video.
Yeah, the video.
Tell them about the video.
So the end product that you have to submit is a video in an MP4 format. Important MP4 format, and the duration of the video should be max 2 minutes. This is for you to be able to keep it short and simple and explain your idea in a short period of time. So work on how to communicate your idea throughout this challenge. As well as the video, you should have a title to the project. You should have a picture with a size of 300 times 420 pixels standing.
And this will be also posted on Slack, correct?
In the same proposal pot. So together with a video.
Yeah, the details.
We will post this on Slack as well, but I want to go through with it.
Yeah.
So and you should also have 1 or 2 paragraphs about the project that you also put into the proposal pot. So a summary of this will be put on Slack, and this stream will also be available afterwards, so you can go back and see it.
Excellent. Well, then there's nothing left but for us to wish you all good luck with the weekend, that you will have a lot of energy and a lot of creative juices flowing. Maybe you've already prepared, you've ordered pizza for the night, gotten some Red Bull ready, so you have the energy, whatever. We just want to wish you good luck on the work through the weekend, and we look forward to seeing you again on Sunday with the ideas that you produce and for the closing ceremony and awards.
Absolutely. Good luck and have a great weekend.